And Walter Isaacson will tell you that there are smart people everywhere. But what sets them apart is their ability to be creative. Their ability to be creative. That's his business. That's what he does every day. Do you think his creativity has impacted you and me? You're going to learn more about that. But you students, look on your regalia, your gown. Just under the word Jones, what word do you see? Inspiring greatness, our motto. Guess whose idea that was? None other than our friend, Mr. Rick Lucer. He inspires greatness every day. That was his vision after we explained who we were these last 100 years. And he said, you know, Jesse, what you do every day is inspire greatness. And those two words kind of embodied a century of work. We thank him for that. And I am so excited today to introduce to you my friend and one of the great marketers in the state, or in the United States. It's Mr. Rick Lucer. Rick, come in fire.
Wow, that's a lot to live up to. Thank you, Dr. Smith, Board of Trustees, faculty and staff, parents and relatives, special guests, and last but not least, the students. If you will bear with me for just 1 second. The last time I wore a cap and gown was 1979 when I graduated as a Tuscaloosa County High Wildcat. At the University of Alabama, when we graduated, all they said was, you sat in a big coliseum that held 15,000 people, and they said, everybody in the School of Communications that is about to graduate, please stand. And you stood and they said, thank you, sit down. And that's all you did. And so I told them in no uncertain terms would I actually go to that graduation, so I didn't. And to this day, my mother has not forgiven me for not getting a picture of me graduating college in a cap and gown. So if everybody in this section right here would smile for me just 1 minute. I'll be texting that to my mother right after I'm done. It is such an honor to be here. I do notice that there are a bunch of parents here, and many of you are going to be taking pictures of your kids. And I know that what you all are thinking is, oh no, I'm now going to have to explain to them how the camera works on the phone all over again. And I know you're sitting there thinking, why is it that they can't get the simple concept that this is just a camera inside a phone? How hard is this? I spent 10 minutes explaining it, and they still don't get it. Well, believe it or not, they spent some time explaining things to you too. So if you've got right here a gadget that you're explaining to them how to use, do you understand that this phone has all the computer power in it that would have filled up this whole room in the 60s that it took to put a man on the moon? There's more computer power in this phone than in that whole room back then. So you're explaining to them how to use this. They took days and weeks to explain to you how to use this. So who's the dumb one, really? It is really good to be here. I have loved Jones County since the first day I set my foot on campus. You all do amazing and great things. I've been given the honor to give this commencement speech, and in the course of just under 12 to 15 minutes, be able to change your lives, which is a pretty tall order. And let me give you a little insight to how this is going to happen. It's been scientifically proven that a half an hour from when I finish, you will remember less than half of what I told you today. 4 hours later, you'll remember less than 30% of what I told you today. And if I see you on the street a week from today, you will only have remembered 10% of what I told you. So, spoiler alert, I'm going to give you the 10% you need to remember right up front, which is this. Mark Twain said an unbelievably smart thing in his life, and this is it. There are 2 days, the 2 most important days of your life. Number 1, the day you're born. Number 2, the the day you figure out why. And so today, I'm going to go over just a few whys with you, because although I believe that was an inspirational thought, I believe that there's more than just one why that you figure out in your life. My first why that made any difference in my life was when I drove from Tuscaloosa, Alabama to Baton Rouge to an advertising convention, and in a room about this size, I looked across the floor and I saw what was without a doubt the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen in my life. In the 80s, she would have been called a stone cold fox. And I told my friends standing there, I said, I'm going to go over there and talk to her. And they said, yeah, good luck. And so as I walked across that floor, I saw a photographer and I said, hey man, walk with me. And he walked with me across that floor. And when I got about 10 feet from her, I told the photographer, I said, you stand right here. By then, she kind of sees me out of the corner of her eye, and so I go over to her, and I put my arm around her. And I look at the photographer, and I said, now, take a picture of the night we met so I'll be able to show it to our children. Oh, yeah, I got game. Or really, I had game. There's nobody fooling anybody today. And if you look on our website, you will see that picture, and I've got this same stupid smile on my face as I've got right now. And she's got this, who are you look on her face. 31 years later, 2 children later, she is still the prettiest woman in any room. But that beauty has gone from the outside, which is still there. It's amazing. She looks just like she did the day I met her, but I now know that beauty on the inside. That beauty on the inside comes from the inside out. That was a why in my life that I had complete control over. It would only be a few years later we had taken our son to summer camp in San Antonio, Texas, and on the way back, there was a why that we had no control over. As we were driving on I-10, one of the busiest interstates there, a trailer clips us, and in the little Ford Escape that we were in, it started to spin, and then it started to roll, and it rolled through 3 lanes of our interstate. It rolled through the median in between the other 3 lanes, and it rolled through the 3 lanes of the oncoming traffic, a total of 5 times, and landed on its roof on the other side. And if you don't already know that my wife's a much better person than I am, this will tell you the way we think. Because I asked her, I said, what were you praying during that time? And she said, I was just praying that nobody else in this whole scene would get hurt in this accident. And she said, what about you? I said, my prayer was, Lord, don't let anybody hit me. In that time, here's all I could think is, when we got to the other side, except for a few scrapes and bruises, that night we walked out of the University of Texas Medical Center without any broken bones, without any stitches. And I sat there and I thought, this quickly, our children could have been orphans. And when you think that, all you really want to do is go hug them. But the other thing you think is, what kind of parent am I being? And here's what I thought. You can always be a better parent, a better husband, better wife, better brother, better sister. That's no doubt. But here's what was confirmed to me that day, is that it takes hard work to be a parent. It takes even harder work to be a daddy or a mom. And I figured out that day that the hard work we were doing, had we left our kids that day, was worth it. Because to be that parent, I've never had any interest in being my children's best friend, ever. I wanted to be their parent. And so when they were about to walk out the door, they knew good and well when they said, hey, we're leaving. Here are the questions. Well, where are you going? Who are you going with? Who's driving? Who's going to be there? What are y'all going to do when you get there? Who are their parents? Where do they go to church? And then the hardest statement of it all, which was, no, that's not a good idea. I don't think you should go. You're not going. To be a good parent, you've got to be willing to be hated. And if that's how we measure it, I passed with flying colors. The why that was revealed to me that day that I had no control over is, there's bigger things and there's better things. And although being a parent is hard work, it's worth it. There's also the why that goes on in your life that you didn't even know was happening, that was nowhere around you. I was at North Park Mall standing in a line waiting to buy gift certificates for Christmas presents because I was too lazy to go out and get real Christmas presents. As I'm standing there, there's a man in front of me, and he is letting the lady in front of him have it for all she's worth. I told you that nobody would take this. You told me that when I bought this gift certificate, any store in this mall would take it. Well, not one store has taken it yet. The store down there didn't take it, and here's what's going to happen. You're going to get on that phone right now, and you're going to call them, and you're going to tell them to take this gift certificate. You know, I'm standing back thinking, oh boy, here we go. I can't wait for what she says next. And it started just like I thought, because she looked at him and said, I'm not calling anybody. That's when I thought, okay, here we go. And here's what she said next. I'm going to close my line down, and I'm going to walk with you to that store. I'm going to find the person who said you couldn't use it, and I'm going to make sure that you are able to use it because you bought something from us with an expectation that you could use it, and I want to make sure your expectations are met. I bought my gift certificates, but I sat there and I waited for her to come back, and when she came back, I looked at her and I said, hey, how would you like to come work for us? And she said, doing what? And I said, I don't have a clue. But I know this, I want you to work for our company. So a few months later, she began as a assistant, a personal assistant. There was everything from file this and file that to go wash the car and bring it back. 24 years later, just a few months ago, Sharon Grubbs was named the Chief Financial Officer of the Cirlot Agency. Today, millions of dollars come in and out of that company that she has complete control over, and she knows where every penny goes. She got that job because she did the right thing when nobody was looking. She had no idea that the why that was happening in her life was happening at the time. The last element of the why that I want to leave with you today is the most important one. It's the why of faith. My favorite Bible story as a kid was David and Goliath. You all know the story. David is sitting there, and really David is just sent to the battle. He wasn't part of it. He was just sent with food. In modern day times, he would be the pizza delivery guy. He had been sent up to the war to actually bring them some food, and that's what he does. And when he's standing there, he observes that there's this really big, giant guy standing there making fun of God. And so David says, and I believe you'll find in the Bible, David says, hey, who's that big dude talking smack about God, and why hadn't somebody smoked him yet? Well, I'm not sure you'll find those exact words, but some translations would sound like that. And the folks said, look how big he is. We don't want any part of him. There's no way that any of us can beat him. And David said, you're right. There is not. But I know that my God and the faith I place in him, that through God I can beat him. And that's what's about to happen. And so you look at David. David was the first real trash talker I know about in modern competition. Because David said this, hey, dude, let me tell you what's about to happen. I'm about to take this rock and I'm going to put it right there between your head and it's going to kill you. Once you're dead, I'm going to take your sword, I'm going to cut your head off, and I'm going to give it to the birds and the beast of the fields. Because nobody defiles the name of my God. And he did it. The most amazing part of that story to me isn't that he did it. The most amazing part of that story to me, which is a verse in the Bible, which says, and David ran to the battle line. In my mind, I always thought David was sitting back and had his sling, but he didn't. He ran to Goliath. And there's going to be times in your life when you actually have to decide, where is your faith? Billy Graham had a great line that he said, not only do I know who I am, I know whose I am. There will be those times in your life when it will be that you will feel like you are part of David and Goliath and you are the underdog. But let me ask you to think real quickly. That is a story of an underdog. But think of it like this. You've got Goliath. By all accounts, Goliath was 9 feet 9 inches tall, weighed over 500 pounds. His armor weighed 125 pounds. The tip of his sword, the tip of his spear, weighed 15 pounds. By all accounts, David was about 5'6", weighed less than 150 pounds. He had a piece of leather and one rock that he put in it. So you would think, who is the underdog? But when Goliath had all this, David had that piece of leather and that rock, and the faith and the God that backed him up. The one that with a blew breath into an entire humanity, who with a flick of his fingers put trillions of stars in the sky. There is no doubt that David and Goliath is the story of an underdog, but I think in that story we picked who the real underdog is. The real underdog was Goliath, because all he had was what you could see in this world. What he didn't have was the faith beyond that. So as you leave here today, find that faith. Find that thing that means the most to you. There are a myriad of problems. There are a myriad of solutions. There's no doubt in my mind that when you leave here today, you are going to be part of the solution. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you letting me be here.